I'm gonna take a second to appreciate everybody's face as second as possible. It's really emotional to be up here right now. As they mentioned previously, this is a new endeavor. Hey. For me, you are standing in Villa Arco. This was going to be the closing part of my presentation, but it feels natural to talk about it right now since we mentioned it. Also, thank you for everybody that came, spoke, and sang. Thank you, Ellie. Thank you to the pictures, especially Sarah. Thank you so much. That was beautiful. I was going to start with a deep breath and talking about being present, so I appreciate that. You just set up the stage so beautifully for being here. So Villa Arco, where you're standing right now, is my most recent endeavor with my partner. I'm actually, going to start backwards since we're talking about it, okay? So this is really funny and interesting because I do not consider myself a linear thinker. So this is great. Here we go. Started from the bottom, now we're here. So this is where this endeavor started, Villa Arco. My brother went to school a couple blocks from here in a middle school, elementary school called Cago Elementary. And one day I was driving back home and I stopped to really sort of admire this graffiti that was on the boarded up building. The devil is here. And I was curious, as to why here, why this location, what was happening, what was activating this space that people thought that the devil was here. So I paused and I was like, oh my God, this is my house. Legit, that was it. I was like, this is my house. This was actually 2 years ago. We're in 2025 now. Get your brain straight. In 2022, in the fall of 2022. So my husband and I started talking about the possibilities, how, why. So I really, really hammered in, got really fixated on this idea that this is gonna be my home. So I started coming by the place, hanging out with neighbors in the cold, meeting people, talking to folks that were pulling up and sitting on the bench. The building had been vacant for 4 years, since 2020, since the pandemic started. So it was a really active, but also abandoned location. So the journey began. I was trying to find out who owned it, what was the possibilities, what was the mountain that we needed to climb to make it happen. We came from a place of wanting to activate it for exactly this reason. Where is community? Why is community? How do we engage with community? As a practitioner of community, this is exactly what we need, always, but especially now. As a person that clearly has a lot of privilege to be able to now call myself the steward of this place, and also, while you're sitting in these seats, you also have privilege. Remember that. In any way, shape, or form, no matter what little or what big, it is incumbent upon us, the people who have privilege, to make space for those who do not, right? We are living in a moment where a lot of things are being sacrificed and a lot of things are being taken from us. Now more than ever, we need to operate from a place of abundance. And this is why Villa Arco is what it is. We moved in May of last year. It's been a really bumpy road, but we are here. We're still under construction. As you can see, the floors, we sanded them recently. And also my home is upstairs, so it's all in one. Lower level is going to be turned into a gallery space for experimental pieces. I am an adjunct professor at MIAD as well, so some of my students are going to begin activating the space come February. So if any of you would like to host anything here, please contact us. We operate from a place of, hey, what do you need? What do you want? Let's do it. Let's make it happen, right? Because truly, there are no limits to what we can do. So let's begin at the beginning, yeah? Let's go back. Speaking of home, this is the home that I grew up in, Puerto Rico. I come from a very suburban space called Levittown, Puerto Rico. Weird name, but in the 60s and the 50s, Levitt Homes architecture created different suburbs around the United States, and Puerto Rico has one. My family bought this home in 1977, and this is where my mother and my aunts actually grew up in. This is a place, I think, the epicenter of who I am. Like I said earlier, my name is Ledesma. My pronouns are he, she, they. I am from San Juan, Puerto Rico. I consider myself Afro-Taino. Afro, I have African ancestry. Taino is my native ancestors. I come from Boriquen, which is right now known as Puerto Rico. Why is that important? It is important because that's my social location. Each and one of us have a different social location that really informs who we are, and those identities intersect and also dictate where we lie in the ladder of privilege. So that's who I am. Oop, nope, going forward. Yeah, there we go. So these are my grandparents. Our journeys don't really start with us having consciousness or remembering where we are, who we are. They truly start way before us. They start with my parents, with my grandparents, with my great-grandparents. I truly believe that each and one of us are archives of experiences that come from before. For example, I hate mornings, y'all. I really hate mornings, really, really, really hate mornings. But we're here, and this is thrilling, and maybe this will change my perspective on mornings because this has been great. But a tidbit of information that I found on an article that's scientific, I'm not a science, but apparently our likes or dislikes for mornings or nights come from a DNA strand from our Neanderthal ancestors, right? You can look that up. I'm not a scientist, but that's what I read. So I truly believe that if our personalities and our traits can be dictated by somebody so far away, why not more recently, right? So these people truly inform who I am, and I lived and I grew up with them in that home that you saw. There they are, my parents, getting married in 1980. I'm going to give you a quick flash background of me. I was born on December 13 of 1986 in San Juan, Puerto Rico. I went to a military school for kindergarten. I moved to Milwaukee for first, second, and third grade. I lived in Clark Square neighborhood, a couple blocks away. I went to Fratney Elementary in River West. I then went back to Puerto Rico for fourth and fifth grade. I came back to Milwaukee for a semester of sixth grade. I went to Casiasco, which is now, I believe, Hayes. Then I went back to Puerto Rico for sixth grade. I went through a protest phase with my family because they wanted to put me in a school that I really did not want to go to. So I went in a hunger strike, which lasted 2 days. Then I was like, I want to go to this school. And my mom succumbed to my protest and said, sure, let's go. It was an art school. I went there from 7th grade into my senior year. Almost every day from that 7th grade to my 11th grade, my grandfather drove me to school. It was about a 30-minute drive to that location. After I graduated, I went to the University of Puerto Rico for 2 years. I moved to Milwaukee in 2007. Then I went to Ukraine in 2008. I came back to Milwaukee, and then I met my partner. We lived in River West. My brother moved in with us, and now we're here. That's it. So I really took different staples of why that shaped who I am. And each one of those things, of course, has different kind of journeys within them and different learning experiences. When you walked in, you got some, what do you call it? Pipe cleaners. Pipe cleaners, that's the name, right? As you can tell, my physical journey has not been a straight line. It's been a very convoluted one, right? Kind of like your pipe cleaners. All right. How many of you left them straight? Show of hands. Yes, no shade, no shame. It's okay. How many of you bent them and got funky with it? Yes, right on. Yes, I saw somebody wearing earrings, which was amazing. Oh, it's a bracelet now. Great. So I want y'all to think of these pipe cleaners as one journey, right? From beginning to end, right? A straight line can typically be a little bit dull and boring, right? Once you shape them around, it's got a little bit more ups and downs, experiences, growth that we are gaining. Yeah, now create something with it. I want you to play around with it. After you're done playing with these two pipelines, in your row, the person who is farthest to my left is going to start something with your two pipe cleaners, and then you're going to, when you're done, pass it to the person on your left, and go down the row until it hits the end. No pressure, there's no right or wrong with this. I just want us to remember, right, that two of these things are probably not that strong, not that great. What happens when we truly have community, right? That we can create a structure, that we can create more things. This is actually a mask that I made. Right? What happens with these intersections? What happens at these locations that we can activate, that we can be, that we can develop, that we can grow, and that we can have each other? So that's just an exercise to do while we're just here talking and chatting. I'm going to keep the mask on because it feels protective. Not that I'm in danger. None of you are menacing in any way, shape, or form. So like I mentioned earlier, my grandfather was the one who drove me to school most of my days. And he gave me two important lessons. Well, not two important lessons. He was always saying these things to me, and I never knew what they meant. He would say, you got two bags, one for losing. Never said what the other one was for. And the other one was, don't worry, there's more time. I was like, what? No, there isn't. A side note, tidbit, I never thought that I was going to get past the age of 15. 15 felt so old when I was young. You know, like at like 7 or 8, you're like, oh my gosh, 15, that's grown. 15 is the cutoff. Even though I had people in my life who were older than 15. Not sure why that was in my brain. But now I understand truly that the two bags, one for losing, right? And the other one is for everything great that is possible, right? The challenges, the growth, the things that we need to get to where we are. And also, there's always more time. Urgency clouds the important, right? Urgency clouds the important. Like our friend Sarah said in the pitch, pause. Please, let's take a moment to pause in the place that we are, how we are right now, in the country that we're living in the society, in the world that we're living in. Pause. Take it in. Be intentional about the things that we're doing, how we're navigating. Pause. That's my grandpa. He was very dope. Both my grandparents are no longer with us, but clearly they are within me. So, also I want to come clean and transparent. I had a really long written out thing, and right now we're just going with it, which feels really, really good. Thank you. Journeys for me usually start with an idea that I fixate on, as you can tell where we're standing on. This was a project called the Project Corned Beef. I created this project during the pandemic. Things were very wild in 2020, as we all experienced and lived through. I was interested in food, right? I think that the kitchen is a place for activation, a kitchen is a place for archiving, a kitchen is a place for knowledge, the kitchen is a place for ancestral knowledge. And I moved back to Puerto Rico during the pandemic to assist and help with my mom and my brother. My mom was a nurse who was in the front lines, and my single parent. So food felt like the thing that I needed to pause and rest on and simmer on. So I developed this project called the Project Corned Beef. Came from the idea of wanting to commune and have dinner together while we were still in isolation. How do we have dinner and grow together in isolation? Well, no, not back, forward. I created food kits. I decided to put all these meals, all these ingredients to make a Puerto Rican corned beef into boxes, and then I send those boxes to people around the world. Inside that box was a letter that talked about the origin of corned beef and how it arrived to Puerto Rico, and asked folks to kind of perform this meal in their kitchen and document it in any way, shape, or form. And if they could, post it online so I could keep track of folks as they were activating it. Yeah? Created a playlist for folks to listen to while they were in the kitchen, kind of transporting them into the space that I was in. And here is, actually this is Ellie Jackson's photo. She was one of the participants. I bring this up because my process of journeys usually starts with an idea, right? An idea. Then I try to find something to ignite that idea, right? How do I push this forward? How can I make this a reality? And after that, how do we continue like propagating that idea? One of the new projects that I've embarked on is developing a hat for each month. Trying to figure out what is my intention for each month, what do I want to focus on, how I'm going to move throughout that month. This was last month's, December, Recombobulate. I felt like I needed to gather myself as to what was happening in the world. And this month's, January, has been Ignite. And for next month, I am going to have a hat that says Resistance. Yes, yes to that. Now, here she is again, Grandma, in her amazingness and all her glory. That rice, what? That rice though. I know, and those beans, don't even, I know, delicious. Yeah, she did, and she did it in heels too. She was mighty. So in 2020, again, another plug to Ellie, who is a sibling and a family member and a mirror. No, sorry, not in 2020, in 2017, in a post-Maria hurricane world in Puerto Rico, we traveled together back to Puerto Rico, and we decided to develop a pop-up restaurant that traveled around Puerto Rico, talking to folks about what they needed, what were things that we could assist with, and just having meals. It all started with actually coffee. We didn't have a table to actually take out, that fit into the vehicle that we had at that moment, to actually take out into locations. So we took my mother's ironing board. As you can see on the pictures, there's the ironing board. So we called it the Ironing Board Cafe, right? It was a shtick that people gravitated to, and we were able to make that happen. It became a gathering place, and a place where we had nothing at certain points, and we were able to distribute so much. So again, the journeys are always flowing, colliding, but operating from a place of abundance has been how my journey, I think, operates and runs. Back to Grandma. Very grandma-centered here. I want to tell a quick story about her, because I think this will give you a little bit more insight as to how the ancestors can work through us. I really don't know what this feeling of having an idea and wanting to push it and push it and push it and push it, where it came from, until I found out that my grandmother, her name is Elia Esther Garcia Davila. My grandmother grew up in the 50s in Puerto Rico. She was born in the 40s, grew up in the 50s. At that time in Puerto Rico, each person was allowed to get a degree from a technical college in Puerto Rico that the government would pay for. Doesn't that sound nice? So she decided to go into secretary studies, typing, right? And she hated it. She was like, this is not who I am. So she had 2 daughters and decided that she wanted to go back to school to be a nurse. The school would not allow her to get her degree because she already had one. Yes. My grandmother, being the baddie that she is, decided to bring a case to the school and say, I'm going to pay for my degree. The school said, you can't do that. She said, yes, I am. She brought a case to the school. She was able to graduate. My grandmother retired as a nurse and practiced for 40 years. Right? Yes. Yes to her. Yes to her. I bring this up because how we act and how we navigate through life and the journey within us is a lot of times dictated not necessarily by what we think we are, but by the things that we have within us, which, for me, is her. I have many things in me. All right. So, since we started at the end, the homes above are homes that I, again, am privileged and honored enough to have purchased back home in Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is right now going through a gentrification crisis that began in 2018. My partner and I were privileged enough to be able to purchase these homes. We're in the process of renovating it, and the end goal is to exchange culturally between Milwaukee and Puerto Rico, specifically also arts. So if anybody is interested, please let me know. Also, part of this journey is unknown, knowing that we really don't know anything, trying to let the intuition guide us, and trying to be closer to the things that we know to be true about ourselves, right? We have that little voice within us that is speaking. Let that be a little bit louder. Let that guide you and listen to it. Also, the journeys within us are never traveled alone, but the most important one is the one where we discover who we are, what we stand for, and how we move. Thank you. That was nothing of what I wrote, y'all.
Are you okay to do cues?
Yeah.
Okay.
Take it there.
Another round of applause. Beautiful. We have about 5 minutes. 10.
Nope.
10
10.
minutes.
Oh, I did.
You want to mingle
Oh,
after,
right.
but ask away.
Renell, hi friend.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Renell. Co-founder of an organization called Social X, and also do some strategy and consulting with Culture by Design.
Woo!
Very excited about this property. Think about creativity comes from a lot of different areas from the marketing side, but then also I love real estate. So I would love to know a little bit more about the icks that you got going through this property. Taking it from the photos when it was boarded up. If you lit some sage going through here with that. So if you can talk about the real estate a little bit more, I think that'll open this up good.
The property itself. Yeah. Okay, we did definitely sage. My partner is Oneida. His family is on the reservation, so family did come and do a beautiful blessing. So the property that you're standing on was built in 1890 as a single-family home, that portion, not this. There used to be a barn behind this that was used as a livery. It was the oldest running livery in Milwaukee because it was demolished in 2012. The people who rented that livery had a funeral business, so they would keep their chariots in the barn. That family, the Lomans, purchased this home in 1931. So they added this extension and did the brick exterior of the house in like Mediterranean style. And this place was ran as a funeral home from 1931 until 1990. Yeah, this was one of the main, it's called the chapels in all the drafts that you see. It's called the chapel. And then in 1990, it was sold to an architect who lived it for a little bit. After that, I believe La Causa was the one who had it from then until 2020. And it was used as a daycare, it was used as family services, community engagement, a whole plethora of things. And we know because the layers of flooring that were in here, and now we own it from La Causa. Does that answer a bit of more of like the history and the questions? Yeah. Yeah. Yes. What? Oh, yes. So I don't know if everybody can see it from where you're sitting, but in this corner, there is a trap door. In the 70s, there was a mechanism installed to be able to bring up the caskets from the basement. It's right in this corner. Before the 70s, they actually just would walk the casket out through the street and bring it in through here. Yep. And, sorry? I know, woo, coming up, yes. They also had like a fan. No. We were open for doors open, and the family who lived this, the Lomans, well, actually the people who ran it after Lomans, but it was still named Lomans. They were teenagers when they moved in here in the 70s and 80s. They were mentioning that each room, there's about 4 big rooms if you look backwards where each ceiling fan is on. Each one of those rooms was a different chapel for people to host a funeral. So at any moment, they would have 4 funerals running in here. Yeah.
So we have a concert, we can pop up through the floor.
Absolutely. Well, we don't have the pop-up. I know. I wish if we had the pop-up mechanism. That'd be dope. But I know, Ellie, that would have been awesome to like bring you up to the bed with a guitar. Yes. Yeah.
If you could picture like the dream state of this place and also knowing how much you're connected to your ancestors and how much the space has moved energy through it in that type of way. Is there do you feel like there's some sort of connection to how you were drawn here or what your vision for this place could be? I know it sounds a little more on the spooky side.
No, yeah, you just did it. Yeah, yeah.
In general, or with community and whatnot?
You know, like I'm not sure what the end goal looks like, to be honest. I think it looks like this, for sure, or at least it feels like this, right? I think in whatever state it continues to morph into, it'll be step by step, and we'll like roll with the punches. But I've been simmering with that thought of like, why was I drawn to this location a lot? And I've been talking to Louis. Louis Boone was the person who built it in the 1890s. I just like randomly, I'm like, Louis, you know, Louis Boone, girl, why? You know, what did you do to my ancestor in a past life? You know, and again, you know, it's 1890, right? It was an extremely different place. I had a friend architect come through and tell me that, oh, this staircase was used for the help, right? So thinking about the place that this country was in the 1890s, to me it feels like a reclamation, a sort of taking back of power. And I also don't feel like I'm necessarily the owner of this place. I feel much more as a steward of the place, right? But there was something in me that was drawn and say, we need to shift whatever was happening here. And that became more clear once I was in the space, not necessarily from the outside, right? I'm not sure what happened in this place in 1890 and what kind of folks were living or suffering or engaging in. But now that I've been here for less than maybe a year, it definitely feels like I need to, I don't know, I don't want to use the word transmutate, but just sort of, you know, like, oh, as a queer black and brown person living in a community that is now predominantly Spanish speaking, that really looks like me, it feels like I'm honoring something that I still can't pinpoint, but that's how I'm feeling. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
What's the history around the name of the building?
Oh, Villa Arco. Yeah, so arco means arch in Spanish, and as you can tell, there's a lot of arches. Also, the three of us who live here, my partner, my brother, and I, are both Sagittarius. Yeah. So they are the archer, right? And in Spanish, arco. El arco is like el arco con el arco is the arch within the arch within the arch. And villa, you know, it sounded cute. And Spanish, you know. There's another question over here, yeah.
I'm going to go down a rabbit hole, but in brief, what is the connection between Borican and corned beef?
Oh, yeah, we can go down any rabbit holes you want. Like most things in the Caribbean, it has a tie to enslavement. During the colonization process of the Caribbean, which was one of the hotspots of the ports, like Cuba, Dominican Republic, Haiti, and Puerto Rico, corned beef used to be exchanged between different nations as meat that was left over. So it wasn't really, you know, any kind of good meat. So they would bring that to the Caribbean as a way to, they say, feed the enslaved laborers. That's what they say. But now, it's become a staple of culture in Puerto Rico and in many Caribbean countries, right? Again, thinking about like shifting the energy, transmutating, taking something that is not necessarily, you know, has a traumatic past or a dark side, we can shift it and change it into something that is joyful. And it's also delicious. If y'all want to do a corned beef dinner, I will gladly host one here. Creative mornings, maybe food, like dinners like that is the next part. Okay. But can we do like dinner nights instead of creative mornings? Yes, and each country, each Caribbean island actually has their own staple, done in a different way, like with corned beef. Thank you for the question.
I'm curious to know a little bit more about like your creative process. I know mentioned like starting with an idea, kind of moving towards a feeling. Like I want to know kind of what your general process is for getting from like idea to fruition.
Great. So, unknown. Period. No, I think, you know, Lele and I were talking about this a lot. There's a lot of unknowns when you know, I sometimes don't even know how to verbalize it, right? That process of being in tune feels really important to me, and I usually use my social location, which was what I started talking in the beginning of, like, where am I, how am I, who am I, ancestrally and also culturally, identity-based, as like the stage, the platform to really like start doing something, and also tied to, I don't want to call myself an activist, but I have been referred to as that way, because everything is political, right? And being a person that is born and raised in a colony of the United States that has been underrepresented and marginalized constantly, as we can see what, you know, in our current day, Puerto Rico has gone through, right? My existence is political, and being able to be here is a political statement without needing to say it, right? So there is some sort of activism to my practice, but I think it's unspoken. It's more like a guiding path. So I usually, again, get to a place where I'm like fixated or asking myself questions. Like, for example, corned beef project. I traveled back home in March of 2020. Y'all, I was at O'Hare Airport. There was like 5 people. There was 2 other people on my flight, and I was in a huge ass Boeing that was like a straight flight to Puerto Rico, right? So I was by myself basically, and sort of that anxiety, that feeling, that trying to connect, that trying to nurture, that trying to figure out what was going on, led to food, right? So I think it's more the process of feeling and then doing, rather than getting an idea and then feeling it out, if that makes sense. I hope that answers your question. Because honestly, if you have an answer, come call me again, because, you know, just do. Yeah. So another question, yeah.
I just wondered if the vision for this building, is it similar to what you envisioned for the homes in Puerto Rico as to how they might function, or?
Yes and no. So this smaller one and the green one on the right, top right, that is going to be rented out to some family members once it's done, so to keep it in the family. And then this duplex, the bottom will be kind of like this, where I would love, you know, in an ideal world, have artist residencies in that location, for folks to be able to go create for an extended amount of time, and then also do the same thing here and do an exchange. Yeah, and then the second floor, I would love it if it was my home, but we'll see. Yeah, yeah. Thank you for the questions. Last question.
Did you make your hat, or how are you getting these?
I made them, yes. So I don't know if you all know about this really beautiful hidden gem called the Mitchell Street Mall. It's right on the corner of 11th and Mitchell. And each month I go in and I chat with my friends who own a little shop in there, and they make them for me. Yeah. So yes, this is going to be an endeavor, year-long endeavor. It started out in November, and it feels like, I don't know, a little sort of tidbit reminder, a little post-it note that I am constantly wearing and thinking about and wanting to keep front and center. Also, the what?
It's your theme of the month.
My theme of, yes, it's my theme of the month, absolutely. Also, how did your art pieces end up? Nice, nice, awesome. I would love to keep those if possible. Oh my God, brilliant, 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 brilliant. Thank you all so much for being here and for joining us in this journey. Also for coming back. I know that it was canceled. Thank you for your grace and for journeying into my home. Appreciate y'all.